I was 29 when this happened. At the time, I worked nights as a freelance audio editor, mostly cleaning up podcasts and narration tracks for YouTube channels. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and I liked the quiet. I've always been the type who prefers listening over talking, background noise over silence. I live alone, don't drink much, don't go out much, and I tend to notice small details other people miss. This took place in late October a few years ago, in a mid-sized city where nothing particularly dramatic ever happens. The kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked during the day and complain more about parking than crime. My apartment was on the third floor of an older building near a strip of 24-hour businesses, a diner, a laundromat, and a gas station that never seemed to close, no matter how empty it was. That night started like dozens of others. I'd made a simple dinner, something frozen, and sat at my desk editing audio with a podcast playing quietly in the background. One of those long, rambling shows people put on to fall asleep. Around midnight, I realized I was out of coffee. I told myself I didn't need it, but deadlines have a way of making small decisions feel urgent, so I grabbed my keys, put on a hoodie, and headed downstairs to the gas station across the street. I remember thinking how normal everything felt, calm, routine. The kind of night you don't remember afterward. I remember it now in uncomfortable detail. The gas station was mostly empty, like it always was at that hour. Fluorescent lights buzzing softly, a faint smell of burnt coffee and cleaning solution. There was one car at a pump, engine running, and the clerk behind the counter was scrolling on his phone, barely looking up when I walked in. I headed straight for the coffee machine. It was one of those self-serve setups that always tastes slightly off, no matter what you choose. As I waited for the cup to fill, I checked my phone. An email from a client asking if the edits would be done by morning. I sighed, capped the cup, and added too much sugar. I noticed the man near the snack aisle while I was stirring. He was tall, wearing a dark jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. Nothing unusual about that. What stood out was that he wasn't picking anything up. He was just standing there facing the shelves, hands in his pockets. I paid at the counter, exchanged a tired nod with the clerk, and stepped back outside. The air was cold and smelled faintly like rain. I crossed the street, careful of the pothole near the curb, and glanced back at the station out of habit. The man was still inside, in the same spot. I told myself he was deciding between chips. People linger. People zone out. I turned away and unlocked the front door to my building, already thinking about getting back to work. Nothing felt wrong yet, just quiet. Too quiet, maybe, but I'd worked nights long enough that silence felt normal. The first thing that made me pause was the sound of the stairwell door closing behind me. It wasn't loud, just the soft, hollow thump of metal against frame. But I hadn't heard footsteps before it, and I hadn't held the door open for anyone. I stopped halfway up the stairs and listened. Nothing. I stood there for a few seconds, coffee cooling in my hand, feeling slightly ridiculous. Old buildings make noise. People come and go. I continued up to my floor, unlocked my apartment, and went inside. About 10 minutes later, as I was settling back into my chair, I heard something else, muffled, almost rhythmic. At first I thought it was part of the audio track I was editing. I paused it. The sound continued. It was coming from the hallway. Slow footsteps, not passing by, not approaching, just pacing back and forth. I stood up and went to the door, careful not to make noise. Through the peephole, I could see part of the hallway and the flickering light near the stairwell. No one was there, but the footsteps didn't stop. They moved out of view, then back again, like someone was walking just beyond the narrow angle of the peephole. I waited. My heart rate picked up, but I kept telling myself it was a neighbor on their phone or someone waiting for the elevator that never worked right. After a minute, the footsteps faded. I didn't open the door. I went back to my desk, put my headphones on, and tried to focus. But I kept glancing at the door, listening for anything that didn't belong. That's when I heard a soft knock. Not loud, not insistent. Just two light taps, spaced a second apart. I didn't answer the knock. I sat there, frozen, staring at the door like it might move on its own. Another knock came, slightly firmer this time. "Yeah?" I called out, keeping my voice as steady as I could. No response. I stood up slowly and approached the door again. Through the peephole, I saw the man from the gas station, same jacket, same cap. He was standing too close to the door, his face mostly obscured by the brim. "Can I help you?" I asked. He shifted his weight. I could hear the fabric of his jacket brush against the door. "Hey," he said. His voice was calm, almost friendly. "You dropped something downstairs." "I don't think so," I replied. There was a pause, long enough that I wondered if he'd left. "I saw you come in," he said. "Thought I'd be nice." My stomach tightened. "You can leave it with the landlord," I said. "Or the front desk." Another pause. "I don't think you understand," he said quietly. "It's important." I backed away from the door, heart pounding. My phone was on the desk behind me. So was my laptop. I felt stupid for not grabbing either before approaching the door. "I'm not opening it," I said. That's when his tone changed, just slightly. The friendliness dropped away. "I know," he said. "I just wanted to hear you say it." Something scraped against the door, low and slow, like a fingernail or a key being dragged across the wood. I stepped back further, my hands shaking. "Please," I said, not sure who I was talking to anymore. He laughed softly, then he knocked again, hard. I grabbed my phone and locked myself in the bathroom, the only room without a window. The knocking turned into pounding, sharp, deliberate blows that rattled the frame. "Open the door," he said. His voice was louder now, closer. I dialed emergency services, whispering my address, trying not to breathe too loudly. The dispatcher told me to stay where I was, to remain silent if possible. The pounding stopped. For a moment there was nothing, no sound at all. Then I heard the click of metal, the sound of my doorknob turning. It didn't open, but the handle jiggled slightly, testing. "I know you're in there," he said, almost conversationally. "You make a lot of noise for someone who thinks they're quiet." I pressed myself against the bathroom wall, staring at the lock like it might fail just from being looked at. "Last chance," he said. There was a long silence. Long enough that I thought maybe he'd left. Long enough that my legs started to cramp from crouching. Then something slid under the bathroom door. A photograph. It was grainy and dark, taken from across the street. It showed me at the gas station, standing at the coffee machine. My face wasn't clear, but my hoodie was unmistakable. "I didn't drop anything," he said through the door. "You did." I don't remember screaming, but the dispatcher told me later that I did. Loud enough that the man laughed again, short and sharp. Footsteps retreated, fast this time, running. By the time the police arrived, the hallway was empty. The police took a report. They asked the usual questions. Did I recognize him? Did I open the door? Was anything stolen? They dusted for prints but didn't find much. The building had no cameras. The gas station's footage was overwritten within days. They told me it was probably someone looking to scare me, a prank, a misunderstanding. I didn't sleep that night, or many nights after. I moved out 2 months later, different neighborhood, different routine. I stopped going out late. I stopped wearing the same clothes repeatedly. I started checking reflections in windows. Sometimes, when I edit audio late at night, I swear I hear footsteps layered into the background noise, slow, careful, pacing just out of frame. I always mute the track. It's been years now. I tell myself it was random, opportunistic, that he forgot about me as soon as he ran down the stairs. But last winter, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line, no message body, just an attachment, a newer photo, taken through glass, of me, sitting at my desk, headphones on,